Hey guys, this is Jeremy with I Kill Orchids, and I am very excited to come to you today because I have received the orchids for this month's drawing, and I want to talk to you a little bit about them, show you my process for quote-unquote receiving new orchids, and also start kind of the setup for what we're going to be doing in the future with I Kill Orchids and our monthly drawings and some other things that are going to be going on. So bear with me, get ready. We are going to dive right in. Okay, so basically here's how this is going to go down. I already told you these are the new orchids for this month, and we're going to be doing a lot of really cool things. I don't know if you can read the labels in front of you or not, but what we're doing this month is Miltoniopsis, and these plants came from Victoria at Victoria's Exotic Orchids, and I spoke with Victoria to make the arrangements to do this because I've purchased from her previously, and her plants have always been very healthy, cared for very well. The packing has always been excellent, and I will put in some pictures, add some pictures to this video so you can see how these orchids arrived, because again, it was, excellent. She's a joy to work for. Her prices are very reasonable, and her plants are always healthy. So that being said, here are our Miltoniopsis. There's 4 plants in this selection. There's 2 of each one because I am going to take one of each type of Miltoniopsis, and I am going to grow them and cultivate them and do tutorial videos and some expert interviews on care of Miltoniopsis, and just basically work through, kind of do a long-term documentary over 1 year of the care of these types of orchids. So every month there's going to be a little bit of an update on what these are doing and how they're growing and what their care is for that type of season. And that's why I have 2 of each type of Miltoniopsis. The other 2 are going to be part of our drawing. So now you're going to know, or you do know, what orchids are going up for the drawing. There's going to be they're both Miltoniopsis. They're not Miltonia. There's a difference in warm growing and cool growing, and we'll go over that a little bit later, but they are Miltoniopsis. This one is Lila, and you'll have to forgive me because I have not figured out how to spell or pronounce that exactly correctly, but I'm going to go with Fairnihow. And this one, actually, I'll go over these plants in a moment. These 2 are actually in full bloom, and so by the time you receive it, they're going to be out of bloom, but I'm going to teach you how to care for them so that you can get them to bloom again. These 2 are Miltoniopsis Patricia Marie Linares, or also known as Mauna Loa, and these guys are just starting to put on spikes, and they have a lot of new growth that still can put on spikes this year, so we will take those through a process as well. What I want to show you is we're going to look at each of these plants, and they just came in. I literally unboxed them just a few minutes ago, and I can show you here, when you receive plants that are in full bloom, this is going to be typical. This is not uncommon. They've been stressed. They've been in the mail for 2 days. There are some of the blooms that are damaged and in rough shape. That's just what happens. It's part of the process. But when you look down here at the rest of the plant, everything else looks really, really healthy. And one of the things I like about Victoria, when she ships, I have never gotten a plant that's come in absolutely bone dry. So I know that she watered them well before they shipped, and it's just a matter of dealing with the stress of the shipping and moving the plant forward. So that's one of them. Just to highlight a couple of things on this particular plant. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to get it up here. But down inside of this particular bulb where I'm opening up this leaf, it may not be focusing. Down inside of here is, there's a new leaf starting to pop up. So this tells me that this has potential to grow more. It has potential to put off new growths at the bottom. It has previously spiked. This bulb has 2 spikes on it. and this bulb has 2 spikes on it. So this particular plant obviously is, you know, happy to grow and put on blooms. So we're gonna see what he does in the future and how he goes from here. The other one on these is pretty similar. He's got some older bulbs here, and this particular leaf shows a little bit of damage and some white, kind of mildewy looking stuff under here. He's got kind of a goofy bud that never took off here on this bloom spike. But what I wanted to show you on this bloom spike too is all of these flowers have not quite opened. So even though he's been shipped, if we get his stress levels taken care of and get him, you know, watered and relaxed and chilled out and in a happy place, these could still open up and do really well still for several weeks. So again, he's got kind of the same thing as far as new growth. His bulbs look really, really good. He's obviously got a lot of roots going on here. He's in great shape. Like I said, I can't say enough about Victoria's orchids. They're always really great. The other two, they're just like little bushes. I mean, they're putting on so much growth, it's kind of not even funny. Each of these plants has 1 spike. This one looks like it lost the top, but it does have a couple of buds here that are still in good shape. This little accordion shape that's down here, this is typical of a plant that went through some sort of period that was really dry and it didn't get enough water. Especially in Miltoniopsis, you will see this. So this means he didn't get the water that he needed for some period of time, and so he had this accordion thing that will never go away. But there's not a lot of it on the plant. I mean, there was that spot, and I think there's one here on the back. So it's not like really major damage. It's not like he's in stress or anything. You can see that he's happy. There's new growth down here. This is a relatively new growth. It hasn't even really put on a pseudobulb yet. You know, it's still, again, a very healthy orchid that is starting to spike and look really good. I'm actually really excited to see what his blooms will look like. The second one of the Patricia Maries also has a spike up here, and I know there's no way I can show it on film, but that same pseudobulb has another spike that's just starting up down here. So he's definitely going to have at least 2 spikes. This pseudobulb has a new leaf coming up in the middle of it. So there's a lot of active growth on this plant as well. Here's brand new pseudobulb coming up, or new growth. Hasn't even, you know, grown into a bulb yet. So really amazing, awesome, wonderful plants. For the sake of simplifying things, I'm not going to show you every step with every one of these orchids, but I am going to describe to you what I talked about as far as my onboarding or bringing on new plants, bringing them into my system. There's a couple things that I always keep in mind, and that is these plants are coming from places that I'm not familiar with, and you know, while I trust Victoria and everything, I'm always cautious of whether there's any pests or, you know, bacteria or anything like that that could potentially, fungus, that could potentially plant or transfer to the rest of my plant collection. So these guys are going to stay away from the rest of my plant collection for about 30 days until I know that I'm not seeing anything really funky or crazy that's giving me any ideas that there's problems. It may be longer, it just depends. But I know that I did see some little spiders on these guys, which isn't uncommon, and I'll show you how I take care of those. But there is, down inside here, there's some webs and spiders and everything, and I just don't want those to transfer to the rest of my plant collection. So when I get new orchids and I bring them in, you can see with this one, he's in some sort of a bark mixture. There's not a whole lot of telling here. It looks like there might be some lava rock in there. That might be a big chunk of perlite. But because he's just putting on bloom spikes, obviously he's not going to be repotted for the time being. We're going to let him go ahead and bloom and just care for him as he is until he's done blooming, and then we'll repot him. But for right now, what I do is I Mega Thrive these guys when I water them. I let them acclimate to the current temperature, and then I go into Mega Thrive and watering. Mega Thrive it's basically a stimulant for plants, specifically orchids. Works amazing for orchids. I've used it on some of my other ornamentals, but I love Mega Thrive. This stuff has minimized the stress on my plants with moving and shipping, and has just really done what it says. It has caused them to thrive, and I've seen growth in my plants that's absolutely amazing. But one of the things that's amazing is how it reduces stress. So what I've done, and that you can't see in the picture, is I've filled up, I have like a utility bucket that I use mostly just for my orchids, and I use it for just watering plants, basically is what it is. And I've mixed up a little bit of pre-made Mega Thrive. There's about a half a quart in there, pre-made, and then some filtered water. I use just basically just a charcoal filter, and you'll use whatever, dependent on what your water situation is. If you need to use some sort of a purified water like an RO or a distilled water, or if your tap water is okay. But I use just a charcoal filter to get the worst of everything out and keep the chlorine to as much of a minimum as I can, and mix that with Mega Thrive. And I will put him to soak in there. Actually, I'll put him in to soak for about 10 minutes. Before I do that though, Mega Thrive is something that I use regularly as a foliar spray. So I'm going to go ahead and spray his leaves, and then I'll go ahead and put him in the bucket to soak. When I mix up Mega Thrive, I put it in my wonderful little spray bottle here, and all of this stuff you'll see links at the bottom of the video or in the post, so you know what I use and where to get it, and you're watching me use it, so you'll know how to use it. But I just pump up my little sprayer, and I don't usually do this right here, but because of my situation currently, this is what I'm going to do. So I just go ahead and spray the leaves until basically the water starts to bead up on each of the leaves. And it doesn't take much, but that is exactly what it needs right there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put him to soak in the bucket. And like I said, I do that for about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to look at the other two that are in full bloom. And I will go through this process with each of these plants. This is just what they get when they come in, and it helps them to get back on the road to growth and not having what are typical stress issues with a lot of orchids, including it minimizes discoloration of leaves and loss of leaves, stunted growth, loss of blooms. It helps minimize all of that. Making sure that utensils and everything stay clean. I have a cup sitting out of the frame here of alcohol with my trimmers in it, and what I'm going to do with this particular plant is any of these buds that are either broken or in really bad shape, like this one, I'm just going to go ahead and nip that off, because that is doing nothing but stressing the plant. And later I can nip the whole bloom spike off after it's done, but for right now I just want to get those guys off of there. The other thing that I do usually, and I will do but not on camera because I don't have it available, but I will go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on these just to make sure we don't have any sort of fungal infections moving forward. This bloom is in rough shape, but it's not terrible bad, so I'm going to leave it there. It's not discolored into the main part of the stem, and it's still strong here, so I'm going to leave that one there. This one, again, it's kind of rough, but it's not terrible, so I'm going to leave that one there. This one is pretty much already done. I don't know if you can see that, this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and nip him off. There's another one up here that It's in rough shape, but it's not terrible bad at the base. So I'm just going to leave it for the moment. And over here, this guy he just came off on his own. This one, yeah, it looks like it's damaged beyond what it's going to be able to stay. So he's clipped and gone. The rest of these, like I said, I just don't want to add any more stress than I have to this plant, and he's not terrible bad there. So he's going to be set aside, and I will spray Mega Thrive on him and then drop him in the bucket as soon as the other one is done. I wanted to look quickly at this guy and show you. See, these buds are just not even fully open yet. So I'm hoping that once we get him Mega Thrived and in water that these are going to open back up. But I will pick the video back up with after they've been Mega Thrived and had some time to sit and see how he does and what his process is. But that's basically just kind of the start of my quote unquote onboarding new orchids process, and I'm excited to show you guys how each of these plants takes off and what they do. And also to let you know, I know that Victoria has a few of these guys left, and I think she's got them on a really good discounted price. So I will have her contact information with this video and also in the post, so you can contact her if you want to get a hold of one of these orchids or two of these orchids and follow along with us. I mean, you know, you'll be able to ask questions because we're going to have experts on and go over things. So it's a great opportunity to basically like follow along, you know, participate in the whole process and see how things go for you as well. So she has that one. The other one that is just going into spike, I know she has a number of those guys. So the Patricia Marie. So talk to her about that. Her shipping prices are very reasonable. The prices on her plants are very reasonable. But it's always a really great thing to be a part of this and join us through the whole process. I would love to see how your plants grow and how your blooms look and how much you enjoy them. And if you like fragrant plants, these are both really excellent plants for a really light, sweet fragrance. You absolutely love them. So I'm going to sign off for now. I'm going to take care of the rest of these guys and pick back up in a little bit after they've had a chance to soak. Hey guys, I'm back. I know it wasn't really any time for you, but it was quick for me. So, or a little bit for me, instant for you. So I just wanted to come back and kind of do a finish up here. I have, I believe, chosen the two plants that are going to be for the giveaway, and they're the ones that are sitting in front of you right now. They are what appear to be currently the healthiest, have the most active and new growth. And this one has a full bloom spike that is not damaged, and it has another one coming up out of here. So at this point, these are going to be what I'm calling the two orchids for the drawing. If for some reason something happens and that changes, I will let you know. But for right now, this is what they are. This guy is also starting to, since he's been watered, these buds are actually starting to open up just a little bit more. So that's kind of cool. It'll be interesting to see if he goes ahead and opens up. But one other thing I wanted to cover with you guys, or two things, I guess, before I wrap this up. When I was talking to you about the Mega Thrive and using that, it's highly concentrated. And when I use it on my orchids, I follow their exact guidelines. And I would suggest that you look them up online. You can Google it, find out more information. Their website is a little old, but it does have information on it. And there's a couple of videos on there that are really good explaining exactly how Mega Thrive works. But one of the things I wanted you to understand is that it's not just a regular stimulant. It is actually designed to penetrate the leaves and the roots of the plant and to inspire growth and carry additional growth hormones that are geared towards full plant growth, both, you know, above and below ground, if you will. So the green area plus the roots, and then also to induce spiking. And basically how it does that is it delivers more hormones, opens up the possibility for the plants to take in additional nutrients when you fertilize them. So this is not in place of fertilizer. This is something you use in addition to. And then it also allows it, basically, it's kind of like a vasodilator if you're used or familiar with working out and pre-workouts. It's a vasodilator, so it opens up the pathways and allows better nutrient delivery from the top to the bottom of the plant. So everything from the roots to the top and the bloom spikes, it just makes the plant, gives it the ability to grow to its fullest extent. So that's why it's really amazing. But the other thing with that is because of that, I didn't use it in the video previously because I was just spraying it on. But when I do all of my plants, I'm very careful with Mega Thrive to wear gloves. And the reason for that is I tend to be very hypersensitive to chemicals. And the first time I used Mega Thrive, I was spraying it on all my plants and everything was wonderful. And the next day I was swollen and looked like the Michelin Man because I had a chemical reaction or an allergic reaction to the chemicals in the Mega Thrive. And part of that is because it's designed to penetrate. So what it does on the plant leaves, as far as being able to penetrate, it also does on your skin. So it's going to deliver that stuff into your own body as well. So just be aware, it's amazing for the plants. I use it all the time, but I use it with gloves. Also, I will let you guys know up front, I am not extremely anal retentive about washing and sanitizing my hands between touching every single plant and you know, going from one to the next. I do sanitize my tools and utensils that I use, like when you saw me clipping the bud or the blooms off of this guy. I clipped it out of the video, but I had dunked it back and let it set in the alcohol for a minute and then brought it back out. I am careful with that, but especially when I'm working with my own orchids or like these orchids, these have all been in the same greenhouse. They were packaged together, touching each other in the box. If they've spread something to each other, they've already done it, most likely. So I'm not hugely anal retentive about that, and however you are, that's completely up to you. I've not had any issues, knock on wood, but you know, I know some people are absolutely religious about sanitize your hands or wear gloves, don't ever touch, you know, change from one orchid to the next regardless of what you're doing. I'm not that way. So if you have questions, that's the answer to how I do things. The other thing that I didn't do on this video, but I wanted to tell you about, was I did mention previously that there were some bugs down in here. I saw there was spider webs and some little bitty spiders and stuff. So I went ahead and what I call debugged these guys. And I have this wonderful little spray bottle that I wrote on there, bug killer. I don't know if you can see it. I love these spray bottles. I have 3 of them. I have the green one that I have Mega Thrive in, green for grow. Red is bug killer, red because bugs are dead. And then I have a blue one that is just for water, and obviously blue water. So I used the bug killer. I sprayed these guys down really well. And when I use the bug killer, I literally just soak them. So they're soaked from top to bottom. It kills. I've never had any problems with any bugs coming back unless there's an aphid problem. If there's an aphid problem, I have to spray them about 3 times a week for 2 to 3 weeks, and then the aphids are gone and there's no other problems. But what is in that spray bottle, what's in here is I mix up, it's 50% alcohol, and just like what you get at the drugstore. 50% alcohol and 50% filtered water, and then I put about 4 or 5 drops of the Blue Dawn dishwashing soap in there and mix it all up really well. And I use that like on all of my plants, even my hibiscus, which are prone to aphids when they're outside in the summer. I spray it on them like twice a week and they do amazing. So these guys have all been sprayed down for bugs. Since I've done that, there's no sign of bugs. The leaves, it also cleans the leaves. They look really amazing. They're, you know, clean and fresh, and no signs of damage on these guys. I'm really happy with these plants. So that's kind of the lowdown of what I do with my plants when I bring them in. Like I said before, these guys are not going to go with my regular orchid collection just because it's a, you know, I just keep them isolated, kind of a quarantine thing, because God forbid something were actually in there and it got into the rest of my orchid plants. I know you wouldn't want that either. So always be careful. Keep things quarantined until you know that all is well, and then, you know, introduce them to the rest of your orchid collection. But what I'm going to do for now is go ahead and take care of these guys the way I normally would. Like I said before, these are cool growers. They're Miltoniopsis. So I have found that just our usual indoor climate is pretty good. Quite frankly, I try to put mine like right under a vent. So like when the AC is running, it blows cool air across them. I keep my house at usually between 50 and 60% humidity. I run a humidifier if I need to. And that keeps all of my orchids pretty happy, but the Miltoniopsis, at least in the past, I have found are usually pretty happy right under an AC vent, ironically. It's kind of nuts. Light, I have found for mine, I do pretty similar to what I do with my Phalaenopsis. We are later in the month going to be speaking with some orchid experts on people who do Miltoniopsis, know Miltoniopsis, and they're going to give us a lot more details on the way they do it. So you'll learn more. But like I mentioned before, go find out from Victoria what she's got available. Get a couple, one or two, one of each, whatever. Just grab something and join us for the journey. I mean, this is going to be a fun and exciting thing, a whole year's journey of putting together and caring for Miltoniopsis to the point of reblooming them and seeing what we can do with them. And if you buy some from Victoria and then you end up winning one of these two orchids, then you've got an extra, and you either keep it in your collection and really enjoy it, or you do something really nice and pass it forward to somebody. I mean, you can resell it, you can, you know, spread the word, spread the love, gift it forward to somebody, whatever you want to do. But don't think that just because we're having a drawing that you're gonna, you know, miss out if you end up with two orchids or something like that. I mean, you know, God forbid any of us actually end up with an extra orchid, right? So anyways, I hope you all are doing absolutely amazing. I know this whole thing has been very long-winded, but I appreciate you hanging with me, and I really am excited and looking forward to this journey with you guys. So get on social media, tell everybody about it. The more that we can get people involved with these drawings, the more gifts I can give, whether it's orchids, we've got some supply packages that I'm putting together, just some fun stuff like t-shirts and things like that. But I know that you guys really want orchids, and that's what I'm working towards mostly, is seeing if we can get to the point where we're doing 4 or 5 orchids a month. So share the word, get people to join the movement and become involved. Let's do these projects together. Let's learn and grow together, because I will tell you, I'm really considered an absolute greenhorn at orchids. I'm just willing to put my face out here. Well, you're not seeing my face, but I'm willing to put myself out here and, you know, fail forward. I'm a firm believer in learning from our mistakes. And while, yes, I want to see every single one of my orchids thrive and grow and do amazing, I know I'm not going to realistically have all of them be alive and amazing. So learn from the lessons and move forward. And I'm just willing to put it on camera. So that's the only difference between you and me. You probably know more than I do. So join me on this adventure. Catch me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. All my information's there. Contact me. If you have questions, I will get them to the experts if I don't know the answers. And let's just have fun, and let's go on a journey and do something amazing. So have a great day, and I will chat with you soon.